Hello, BookTube. Well, as you can see, I am back on the fainting couch here at Hyde Cottage. I am no longer filming in the little book room. I've got the bean on her window at her pillow. I've got massive loads of laundry being done. 8 million loads of laundry lined up to get the dust and the dirt out of everything, and all the stuff that the linen and draperies and coverings and clothing and whatnot that was just piled willy-nilly in places under tarps. That all needs to be cleaned. But it looks like I am slowly regaining control of Hyde Cottage, which is great. And another fringe benefit of that is that I am freer and freer to leave. During the worst of this horrible, horrible ordeal, I was not free to leave. I didn't know half the people who were here, and they were constantly working. Loud, whining bit drills, power cords everywhere, open buckets of paint everywhere. I can't leave Frida in a circumstance like that. Even if the foreman of the work is trustworthy and so will make sure that his workers don't just leave with a MacBook, I still can't. I can't leave her alone in that kind of chaos. Not only because she might have a misadventure, fall through a hole in the floor or something like that, but also because she would feel abandoned if I left her in the middle of all that confusion. So I haven't been able to do that anywhere near as regularly as I was like. And that freedom is returning as well. So I was able to go out this morning. And I kind of wanted to, if it was at all possible, because inclemently hot weather is coming to Boston. Not end of the world stuff, not triple digits like is afflicting so much of America right now and has been forever, but rather something akin to the heat wave that's afflicting Europe and parts of southern England, where the temperatures are going to go up into the mid-90s Fahrenheit, starting soon, starting this weekend. I think tomorrow might be the only day left that's even relatively normal. And other than that, no. No, I wanted to get some errands that had piled up for a month done before then, and I did. I went out and about, saw a few people, got a few things done, and one of the things that I wanted to do is a regular thing that a friend of mine runs a church here in Boston, and he used to have a regular jumble sale. It's just pretty much ongoing, where his parishioners would bring in stuff to add to the sale, and he would have 2 150-year-old ladies who would oversee it, and mind the till and do the sums and whatnot. And he had to stop that when COVID struck the first time in earnest. And hasn't really resumed it. Most of his parishioners are quite old and quite vulnerable. He doesn't want to do that. So, oh, hey baby, your friends get to see you. But the books keep coming. The donations keep coming, including a large number of books. And I haven't been able to go there and see him in a while. I wanted to go and talk to him. And he said, you know, if you need an incentive, I said, I don't need an incentive. I miss seeing you. I miss talking to you. But he said, if you need one, the books have continued to come in. He lets me just go into the room where they're stored and just parse through them, pick through them, take as many as I want. He always jokes, I always offer to pay, but he always says that the thing that he wants is that he is in the room with me, and I tell him about all of the books, one by one. You'd think that would be the one thing he wouldn't want. You'd think that would be so tedious. He has for years called that a free education. And he kind of insists on it. So we have a lot of fun. And I did that today, and I got a stack of books. By the time I finished, it was quite warm outside already, even though it was the morning. But he has a young sacristan. He has a young assistant he's a real nice kid. He's very young and very good looking and very muscular. He has muscles coming out his ears. And he was working in and around the place. Our standard arrangement now is that when I'm finished, he will get this assistant to stop what he's doing, load all the books into the church's car, and drive me home, so I don't have to lug things home, and also help me in with the books. So when we were all finished, we went out to a bigger storeroom where this kid was working, and he was a little hot too. He was looking for a nice break in the routine, and my friend said, if it's all right with you, I'd like you to load these books into the car and take Steve home. We've done it many times. We're friends now, and he said, sure, absolutely. And as he was picking up the box of books, he said to me, the soul of innocence, he said to me, I'm kind of grimy. Would you mind if I took my shirt off? And my friend just elbowed me, like, behave. I said, I think I can live with that. So he did. A sculpture by Praxiteles. That's exactly what he looks like. Just not an ounce of fat on him. Just you could do anatomy lessons off this kid. So he put the boxes of books in the car and drove back here. Brought them upstairs, brought them to Hyde Cottage, and met Frida, and she screamed at him for a liberal amount of time. But he also looked around and noticed that the place was a mess. There wasn't really any construction equipment anymore, but nothing was where it's supposed to be. There was no art on the walls, no, the books were piled willy-nilly, furniture was piled willy-nilly. And he looked around and sort of ran a hand through his hair and said, well, some of this stuff looks really heavy. I'd be happy to help you put this back in order. And, oh my God, it was a flash reminder of all the days for all the years when I had a cohort of muscular teenagers, of teenage weightlifters, who I helped them with their classes. I talked to their parents about them. I taught them how to live in the world. All I got in exchange for that was free unpaid labor. I always used to joke with them about that. COVID ended that completely. Here, all of a sudden, it was, again, not a group, but at least one guy who is never going to get tired and who has gigantic muscles. So I said yes. I wasn't expecting it at all. But I said yes. Yeah. Why don't the two of us see if we can put a lot of this stuff in order? There's a mop, there's a broom, there's a dustpan. Frida will stay out of our way now that you've petted her. And let's move some of the heavy stuff and put it back in order and see how far we get before we just get sick of doing it. And he said, I'd be happy to help. He looked at me, again, soul of innocence, and said, would it be okay with you if I kept my shirt off? I said, okay, I'll allow it. But BookTube, I earned my ogling rights because I was dead tired by the time it was over. But we got a lot of work done, a lot of precious work done that wouldn't have, my surly houseboy would have had to do it somehow. So it was a godsend. And I'm going to email his boss and tell him anything you can do for this kid. You have my seal of approval, any help I can be for him. This was just an amazing gift. So we set everything up, and hence I have my fainting couch back, and I wanted to show you the books that I got. I got a small pile of books. They were free. They were just going to sit in that storage room, and I suddenly feel like I have more ability to have books than I did even yesterday because I've got, much more space now. So let's take a look at these. The first one is a mass market paperback that I've actually talked about. It's a little late. It comes to me a little late. It's too late for June on the Range, the great BookTube event celebrating Western novels. Michael K. Vaughan invented it. We had a whale of a time, a hoedown of a time for June on the Range, but it's over. And one of the things that I was talking about and thinking about was this, The Way West by A.B. Guthrie. But not just The Way West with this cover art. This old Bantam paperback that is the one that I read it in, and I dearly love, and it came to me, I found it today. It came to me too late. It's in perfect condition. The same condition as the day that it was printed. But I'm not going to read it until next June on the Range. I remember really liking this, but I'm not going to get to it until next year. Then this next one is a BookTube made me do it thing. I don't know, some of you are going to need to sit down for this. It's a bit of a shock. But I have many, many rationalizations, the first of which is that BookTube made me do it. It's specifically Curtis Books and Books. Curtis was a booktuber a long time ago, built a following. People liked seeing his face. They liked hearing his gravelly monotone. He's over in England. And then he stopped. He stopped doing BookTube for a while. And I messaged him a few times once he stopped, asking, what's going on? Is everything all right? His messages, that was years ago, long before COVID, was, yeah, everything's fine. I'm just not making videos anymore. And just lo and behold, the other day, he made a video on his channel. He didn't get rid. He just made a video talking about what he's been reading lately. And I watched I, of course, made a joke in the comment section. I was happy to see him back. And I watched the comment section. Everybody was happy to see him back. This little corner of BookTube is a very welcoming place. And I think it gave him a tiny bit of encouragement. It's somewhat hard to tell with the anomie of Gen Z, but I think it gave him a bit of encouragement because he made another video. This time with a different background, a nice wall of books behind him, which is kind of a prerequisite. I'm breaking it now. There are no more books in my videos, but there is the bean. And the second video that he just made it the other day, seemed designed to irritate Steve, which is not a good idea. Okay? Because I am the hostess with the mostest here. I am a genuine sexy influencer. If I choose to make a viral TikTok video saying how much I dislike you, your life is pretty much over. But he made a video that was all Cormac McCarthy this and Stephen King that. Nevertheless, it was on my mind when I saw this next book. This is Under the Dome by Stephen King. And my excuse, first of all, Curtis put it in my mind. He didn't talk about this book. He talked about The Institute by Stephen King, which is wretched. There were parts of it that he liked, and his liking of those parts was dead wrong. But Stephen King was in my mind because I watched his video, and this is a UK trade paperback. This is a slightly scuffed UK trade paperback. I have a deep soft spot for UK trade paperbacks, and in the background of that second video that Curtis made, there were a whole bunch of scuffed UK trade paperbacks. And also, if we're being completely honest here, Curtis himself is pretty much a scuffed UK trade paperback. So I got this. I've never seen this before. I kind of like the design where everything is open up here, everything's open up here. This was obviously read and loved. It's slanted in such a way that someone obviously worked their way through this. This is Stephen King's gigantic novel about a small town that is abruptly cut off from the outside world by the eponymous dome. What happens in that small town? If no one can get it out, what happens? It was made into a TV series starring Mike Vogel, pining for tobacco in every scene. Not able to do it, had to wait for the clacker to come down so they could light up. And giving his usual dead, boring performance. I don't know what it would take to get a good performance out of this kid. He's blandly good-looking, so he's probably got guaranteed work in Hollywood, but the adaptation was at least added better visuals than the book. I've read the book twice now. I'm going to read it again. My main problem with this book, aside from the fact that in 50 years of writing novels, Stephen King has never learned anything about how to tell a story. But my main problem with this, as I've mentioned on this channel a few times, is its horrible ending, which is horrible even for Stephen King. It's just an unbelievably dumb ending to this book. And I wondered when I saw this today, I thought, well, this is BookTube Kismet talking to you. You can't refuse this. And also, I would be thinking about this edition if I didn't grab it. But also, I was thinking, okay, but the second time that you read this, you read it angrily because you knew that the horrible ending was coming. What if your justification for reading it the third time is just read the book and don't worry about the ending. Don't think about the ending. The ending shouldn't be the be-all and end-all. Think of Thomas Harris's novel Hannibal, for instance. I've gone on many times about how it has the mother of all infuriating endings. But the book itself is brilliant. Just brilliant. Now, I'm not expecting to encounter any hitherto unseen brilliance in this book. But it's a Curtis Made Me Do It book. So I thought I'd grab it. This next one, I'm pretty sure we saw this on this channel. But I don't remember it all that well. And it was free. It's not in all of that great shape. I'll read it and then get rid of it. This is by John Young, and it is What the Robin Knows. It's natural history about what birds can tell us about the natural world. So it's not just robins that are in here, it's curlews and sparrows and whatnot. I vaguely remember it, but I honestly don't think I read this. I'll have to go through my reading journal and see if I did, but it's not ringing any bells. I'll know in the first 10 pages. but I'm always up for a little natural history, absolutely. Then the next one is one of 2 or 3 ex-library copies. It's going to take a little work to sort of fix this, but I haven't read this in a long time. This is by Edward Lazzolari, and here I want to get you the artist here. Chris McGrath did the cover art. I like Chris McGrath's covers. This has the very boring title, Awakenings. And that is the Chris McGrath artwork there. And this is the start of a fantasy novel. I believe this was his debut novel, about a group of people who come from an alternate world and are come to Earth, but the process of getting them to Earth goes awry and scatters them and warps their memories, blunts their memories. So not only are they dealing with a new world, but the cast is slowly figuring out that they don't belong here at all, and maybe acquainting themselves with the imperatives of why they came to Earth in the first place. And I read this and thought it was really good, but I didn't write about it. Then there was the sequel. The sequel was called The Lost Prince, and I did a review of that. If I remember correct to do it, I'll leave a link to my review down below. I thought the sequel sort of lost many steps. Parts of it were still pretty good, but it wasn't anywhere near as good as the first book. And I honestly don't remember if the series continued. I'd be interested in reading the other books if it did, but I wasn't going to pass this up. It's an excellent library copy, so it's got this sticker there and the sticker here. I can get rid of those. And we have another one of those as well. This thing here. This is the Modern Library hardcover of John O'Hara's A Rage to Live, which came out in the 1940s, was a huge hit. It made him a ton of money that he blew through like a winter storm. He got a huge amount of money for the book, huge amount of money for Book of the Month Club, the paperback rights, the movie rights. Then later on, I think the movie came out 10 years later, but he got a really good deal for it. And I like John O'Hara. Various attempts have been made to sort of revive interest in him, in his novels. Penguin did, of course they did Appointment in Samara, but they also did a few other John O'Hara volumes. I don't think it actually worked. I wrote about one of those John O'Hara volumes and sort of poured out my heart about this author. And again, if I remember, I'll find that review and link it down below. I would be happy to reread this thing, definitely. I'll clean up the library edition. I don't want any of this library folderol on it. I can manage to keep the plastic covering. And then the other sort of mid-century classic that I got was Passage to India. E.M. Forster here in the Everyman's Library edition with the tassel bookmark. And I like these editions very much. I have a whole shelf of them. And this was on my mind because Penguin Classic just came out with a new edition of their edition of Passage to India. And I wrote about it on my literary blog, Steve Reads, which is on my website. Wasn't actually, I did review the thing. I can't really write about books without reviewing them in some sense. But if I remember, I'll leave a link to it, but I don't mind having more than one copy of this at all. And this is the one that I would sort of want. There's the author being all pretentious on the cover there. This was, again, well received, but it was his last book. It was his last novel. And if you read about the things that he was writing about fiction when he was working on this book, you can understand why. He was losing the will to write fiction. Then we'll finish up with a couple of biographies, of course. And they're both big, they're both great, and I've had both of them many times. And maybe I'll get rid of them again, but I don't have either one of them right now, and I wasn't going to pass them up for free. The first one is by Hugh Brogan, and it is his big book on Alexis de Tocqueville. Here, I don't want to block the beans since you waited so long to see her. There is a book, a great edition of Democracy in America, de Tocqueville's great book, and there's a great analysis of it called De Tocqueville in America, and then there's this. And if you have those 3 books, you're set for de Tocqueville. This is a terrific, intelligent, chatty biography, all-knowing, and I got a copy, I hauled a copy years ago on this channel, and got rid of it to one of you, sent one of them away. And at the time, I thought, the Brattle will provide. You have access to a lot more used books than the normal person does, so don't be greedy. Send it to people who are living in book deserts. You'll find it again, and I did. So maybe I'll reread it. Maybe I'll hold on to it. And the same thing is true with this next one. This is also an ex-library copy. I will fix this. This is by Edwin Haviland Miller, and it is Salem is My Dwelling Place, his big University of Iowa Press biography of Nathaniel Hawthorne. I periodically go through spasms where I think I don't need 10 biographies of Nathaniel Hawthorne, but they all bring something to the table. The good ones do, and this one is really, really good. Very stately. It's got all sorts of schmutz on it that I will fix. But it is a library discard. You can see right there, discarded. And I didn't have it. The minute I saw it, I realized I didn't have it, so I grabbed it. Absolutely. I mean, these things were free. I got to talk about them with an old friend. They were brought here without any effort on my part, and the same beast of burden that brought them here helped me to rearrange things. So I wasn't going to turn them down. Absolutely. So we have Salem is My Dwelling Place. We have Hugh Brogan's book on Alexis de Tocqueville, a fantastic biography. We have A Passage to India and A Rage to Live, two novels well worth rereading. We have What the Robin Knows, Awakenings by Edward Lazarari. I saw no sign of The Lost Prince. I would have grabbed it if it had been there. We have, believe it or not, a Stephen King novel, a UK trade paperback of Under the Dome. And we have The Way West by Guthrie in this mass market, the very one I was talking about and opining about and pining for. Fantastic. Just a fantastic little book haul to celebrate the return to the fainting couch. Those are the only 2 videos that I'm going to make. These things lasted a while. I waited long to do them because we were working and rearranging things, but I'm hoping that all of this was enough for you. So I will wrap this up, and I will see you soon. Thank you.